Today, we'll explore an incredible story of resilience, faith, and divine providence, the story of Joseph. It's a tale of a man who faced immense betrayal and unimaginable hardships. But through it all, he never lost his faith in God. His journey from the bottom, the depths of a prison cell, to the highest position in Egypt will leave you in awe. Joseph, the son of Jacob, was the 11th among 12 brothers, but he was the favored son of his father. Jacob gave him a beautiful, colorful robe, a symbol of his deep love for Joseph, a gesture which did not go unnoticed by his brothers. They grew envious and bitter, their jealousy darkening their hearts. One day, Joseph shared a dream with his brothers where they were all binding sheaves of grain in a field, and Joseph's sheaf stood upright while theirs bowed down to his. Now, if you already dislike someone, hearing they'll one day rule over you probably isn't going to help. Instead of softening their hearts, this dream only fueled the fire of resentment growing within them. Fast forward to a fateful day in Dothan. Joseph's brothers saw him approaching from a distance and conspired to get rid of him. Their initial plan? To kill Joseph and throw him in a pit. Reuben, one of the older brothers, had a sliver of mercy and convinced them to spare his life. They decided instead to throw him alive into the pit. As Joseph pleaded from the depths of that empty, dry well, the cruelty of his brothers' disdain became clear. Then, in a cruel twist of events, instead of killing him, they sold him to a caravan of Ishmaelites heading to Egypt for 20 pieces of silver. Can you imagine the devastation Joseph must have felt? Torn from his home, family, and everything he knew, sold as a common slave, treated as less than human. His life seemed shattered, hopeless. The despair would have overwhelmed most, but not Joseph. Deep within his soul, his faith in God remained unshaken. And God, though unseen, was silently orchestrating Joseph's journey. Once in Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, the captain of Pharaoh's guard. As a servant in Potiphar's household, Joseph demonstrated integrity, hard work, and a commitment to excellence. His faith and dedication didn't go unnoticed. Potiphar quickly placed him in charge of his entire household. It seemed, for a moment, that Joseph was beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel. But Joseph's story was far from over. Enter Potiphar's wife. She took a liking to Joseph and repeatedly tried to seduce him. Joseph, a man of strong moral character and unwavering faith, rejected her advances each time, saying, "How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" His refusal angered her. In retaliation, she falsely accused him of attacking her. Potiphar, enraged, had Joseph thrown into prison. Let's pause and take stock here. Joseph went from being his father's favored son to a pit in the wilderness, then to slavery in Egypt, and now he's in a dungeon, wrongfully accused. How easy it would have been to lose hope, to feel forsaken by God. And yet, once again, Joseph stayed faithful. God's hand was still upon him, even in that dark prison. He soon found favor in the eyes of the jailer, who put him in charge of the other prisoners. While in prison, Joseph met two of Pharaoh's officials, the cupbearer and the baker, who had been imprisoned. Both had troubling dreams, and Joseph, acknowledging that interpretations belonged to God, offered to decipher them. For the cupbearer, he predicted restoration to his position. For the baker, he foresaw execution. Both prophecies came to pass, just as Joseph said they would. Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him when he was restored to Pharaoh's service, but the cupbearer forgot. For 2 long years, Joseph remained in that prison, waiting, praying, trusting God's plan despite the trials, despite the deafening silence. Then, a defining moment came. Pharaoh himself had 2 dreams that no one could interpret. In one dream, 7 fat cows were devoured by 7 skinny cows. In the other, 7 healthy ears of grain were swallowed by 7 thin, withered ones. Pharaoh's wise men and magicians were stumped. It was then The cupbearer finally remembered Joseph. Joseph was summoned to Pharaoh's court. When asked if he could interpret the dreams, Joseph humbly replied, "I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." He explained that the dreams were a warning from God. 7 years of abundance in Egypt would be followed by 7 years of famine. Joseph advised Pharaoh to store surplus grain during the fruitful years to prepare for the years of famine. Pharaoh was impressed, not only by Joseph's interpretation, but also by his wisdom and foresight. He appointed Joseph as the second in command of Egypt, giving him authority over the entire land. Just like that, this man who had been despised, betrayed, enslaved, and imprisoned was now second only to Pharaoh himself. Joseph went from prison to palace, a testament to God's divine providence. And yet, Joseph's story wasn't just about his rise to power. It was about redemption. During the famine, Joseph's brothers traveled to Egypt seeking food. They stood before the brother they had betrayed, though they didn't recognize him. Joseph, however, knew exactly who they were. He could have sought revenge, but instead, he tested their hearts. He wanted to see if they had changed. Through a series of events, Joseph revealed his identity to his brothers. Imagine the fear and shock they must have felt. But Joseph, filled with grace and forgiveness, told them, "Do not be afraid. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." What a powerful moment. Joseph's faith in God had sustained him through every trial. His rise was not just a demonstration of divine favor. It was a story of humility, forgiveness, and unwavering trust in God's plan. His life reminds us that no matter how bleak our circumstances may seem, if we trust in God, He can turn our trials into triumphs. So, what can we learn from the story of Joseph? First, faith in God can sustain us through the darkest times. Second, our trials often have a purpose beyond our understanding. And third, forgiveness is a powerful testimony to God's grace. Just as Joseph realized that God was working behind the scenes for a greater purpose, we too can trust that God is working in our lives, even when we can't see it. Remember, faith is not about waiting for life to be perfect. It's about trusting God in the midst of imperfection. If Joseph can go from a pit to a prison and then to a palace, imagine what God can do in your life. Take heart, keep the faith, and know that God's plan for you is good.